To think of one time I seen, or me and my some of the older kids, we seen this one lady getting beaten up, and I even thought that I was so quick to like call your RCMP, like you know, like this guy's beating up his wife, and then we call your RCMP, and they're getting all the information, and you know, like that RCMP, he eventually brought the lady that was beaten up, and she had a baby that maybe not even a year old. She was packing her baby on her back, and you know, like we were happy we did that. We were happy she brought her baby, and we watched her baby. But the thing is that when court date come around, she dropped the charge, and we were so disappointed. I was wondering, how could somebody live like that? But the thing is, I live like that too, and I didn't do nothing about it. My name is Annie Thrasher. I grew up in Politic. It was right back to I was 13 years old. I had a crush on him. Nobody knew. I didn't tell nobody, but I had a crush on him. And then at one time he joked at me. We were running around, you know, like when the barges come in, we were sitting around, and he ran to me and he grabbed me and put me on the ground, and I was, you know, trying to get up, and he said, we're gonna get married and we're gonna have 14 children. I was just a kid, I guess, but later on when I thought back, like, okay, I would have been 20 years old, I think, when I started going with him. It was like there was a lot of good times. There was a lot of good times in a relationship. Politic is on the Arctic Ocean, and there's all along the beach around Politic there, you know, you could fish anywhere. You could fish anywhere around there. So maybe up until about middle of June, till when it starts getting dark, end of August, maybe we'd have a camp out in the land, and anywhere on the beach around there, you know, we could get a lot of fish. And we had a lot of our summers were out in the tent, out fishing, and the kids grew up around, you know, around the camp and around the creek where they'd swim, and it was just nice. I miss it, you know. It was nice. I liked it. To think of how those kind of things started is, I still can't understand why. Like, I can think about it, but I can't understand why we'd get into argument. When I was pregnant with my son, my first child, and I was 20 years old, my first baby, and the father didn't think it was his child, and there was an argument, and the argument led to the bathroom. Anyway, he asked me if the baby was his, and I said it was his baby, but he, I guess, went to the extreme to find out if the baby was his or not, and I said yeah, and I kept saying yeah, there's his, you know, and didn't have to worry about nothing. And like, you know, what he's telling me is like, you know, you better tell me, and you better tell me it's his, or I'll kick you in the stomach. And then I guess the more I said it was his, the more he got angry, I guess, or something. Anyway, he had his foot up ready to kick me, and like I'm there sitting on the floor, and I'm 8 months pregnant. My belly is, 8 months pregnant, and to see him trying to kick me is like what else can, what else can get worse than that? I can't go anywhere because all there is the door behind me, and it's shut and locked. There's no way sort of to get out of it, to get out of that situation. And all I wanted to do is protect and protect this unborn baby, and what else could I do? I try to explain to myself and trying to say yeah, this is your baby, and everything sort of just about went to the extreme where he wants to kick at me so I can give him the right answer, but I've been giving him the right answer all along. What did it make me feel like? It's like I was always doing something wrong, but I wasn't. Sort of questioning myself, like, what did I say, or what did I do, or kicking myself in the butt and wondering what the heck you did this time, or when I knew something was going to happen, I knew there was an argument or something, I'd tell the kids, go play upstairs, or go watch TV, or keep them occupied where maybe they wouldn't hear what's happening. To think of it, I probably would have been thinking like they're not going to hear, or they wouldn't see anything, but they probably did.
I knew that I loved him. I didn't understand why he was the way that he was, but I didn't question that. All I knew is things were the way that they were, and if I didn't do what I was told or how to, that I was going to get beat. So it was better that I just do. I remember nights waking up hearing Dad beat his girlfriends, and including her mother. And at this particular night, I knew that she had an ulu to her throat, threatening to kill herself with this ulu. And she's screaming, "Don't come near me." I'll do it. I'll kill myself. I'll do it. And his reaction to that was, "You do that, you fucking woman, and I'll kill you." And then you'd hear crash, bang, boom, and screams. So it was nights like that that, we didn't dare move. And we tried to be as quiet as possible, because your breathing could bring him in. Your breathing could, just even the flicker of a light could bring that horror into the room, and blankets would go flying and you'd get beat next. So you just stood there and you didn't even move for fear that the bed would squeak. And when that happened, you're frozen with fear. You're just frozen, and all you can think of is, stop it, stop it, stop it. My name is Jerry Sharp Staples. I'm originally from Joe Haven. I say Joe Haven. That's where my mother is from. Some people would say that I'm also from Nova Scotia. That's where my father's family is from. I spent most of my years before high school going back and forth between Joe Haven and Nova Scotia. I have a brother who is 14 months younger than I am. When I was 2.5, my father gained full custody over me and my brother. When I was 9, my father decided to take us back to Joe Haven. I don't recall a lot of the years before Joe Haven. I do remember some happy times, but my father was very, very controlling, extremely controlling. There was nothing sacred, nothing, and if there was, he destroyed it. He took it out, put it in his hand, and said, "It's mine now. I know you want this. Here, it's gone." So, and it was routine. If we did anything that we should be happy about, he found a way to make it bad. And at the time, trust me, we thought our father was bigger than God, because God couldn't save us from the things that our father did. And he was looking for reasons to punish us, to beat us, to put us down. And obviously the RCMP had to be aware, because everybody was aware. I mean, were people blind? So we knew that if the RCMP knew and weren't doing anything, well, he was bigger than the law. What was the point of even trying to report anything? So we were trapped.
It wasn't. It just wasn't spoke of. Like, it might have happened, but might have happened in a community where, you know, there was abuse, but I don't know what it was, the year or the times or whatever, but it was just sort of, it just sort of happened, and pretty much nothing was done about it unless you were brave enough to charge the person. I seen a lot of violence, and I seen a lot of fighting. I seen a lot of women with blue marks or stuff like that, and I thought, okay, that must be sort of normal.
There was one time I'd stepped on a piece of glass, and I felt like there was a piece of glass still on my foot. Now, and I was bitching about this with my father there, and finally my father said, "Well, get on the couch and let me take a look at it." And so I got on the couch, and he had tweezers, and I said, "Well, no, that hurts. Get up here. I'm telling you to stay still." "No, it hurts," and I jumped off. This particular day, he was a little edgy, and he just recently broke up with one of his girlfriends, I know. And maybe my defiance in getting up and leaving him on the couch and not returning snapped, because all I remember is that the next thing I was on the floor, he had my arms pinned. He had his knees on my arms here and here, and he was slapping and punching me, and I could not do anything. I was kicking and thrashing with my legs and kneeing him in the back, and I started yelling for my friends, "Help me!" And somehow, I don't know how it happened, I ended up kneeing him in the balls. At that point, one of them ran out and got the RCMP, which they came and they spoke with my father, and they took me to the hospital I did not have any glass in my foot, but at that point both my ears were bleeding, my jaw was crooked, and I had hand imprinted marks, bruises like on my face, and my eyes were swollen, and I didn't know the type of trouble that I caused by going to the hospital and letting them examine me. And that's when they said, we'll send the social worker over. I had no idea what that meant. None. All I could think was, we're going to have help. So the social worker shows up, and to my surprise, my father's standing in the same room while she's interviewing me. And then she asks me in the end, do you want to stay here? And I'm looking at her, and my heart is screaming at her, I want to go with you. I want to go with you. I want us to all go with you. And she says, I can only take you with me. And the moment she said that, I remembered my heart falling a mile. And I said, no, Daddy's good to us. Daddy doesn't hurt me all the time. And I lied to my teeth as my eyes are looking at her, screaming, why only me? Why? And she left. That was the first and only time that I remember social services being involved.
It could be so scary. It could be like you're all alone, or it could feel like you're all alone, or it could feel like nobody cares. Well, what I tried to do was get all the kids out before I was kicked out or pushed out the door. I ran next door. Everybody was sleeping because I know like the doors were locked and there was still nobody out in the streets. And I could still hear them yelling at me. And I'm telling the kids, shh, be quiet. My dad's gonna come, or just wait, be quiet. And then just sitting there and not knowing what to do, not knowing where to go, or, So I just sat there on the stairs, and I think it was the first time that I felt alone, where like there's just me and these kids. Like, what am I gonna do? Whatever I do, I have to do it with these kids, like they're gonna be there with me. It was always scarier for me to try and think of leaving him or charging him, It was easier just to stay home and let the abuse to go on. I was always more scared to leave than to stay. It's always what if with me. It's like, what if I left? What would he do? Where would I stay? Who's gonna take me and my kids in? Or, like, if we get out of town, who's gonna pay our way? Like, who's gonna... It's like, if I left it would be like I was a burden to everybody else, whether it be my family or anybody. Like, who's gonna take in this young lady with 3 children? Most of the time, he'd pick me up the next day, and then I'd have to tell him what he did. And I don't know if he believed me or not, but I'd tell him, if you remember, he says no. And then just to think of it, maybe when he'd say he didn't remember, I'd believe that he didn't remember, and okay. So it's almost saying like it didn't happen, Then, he'd tell me I'm sorry, and because I loved him, because I was his wife or mother of his kids or whatever, it was okay because he said he was sorry. He'd nurse me sometime. Like if I had a cut face or something, wipe my face off, or like I'd I'd get up and a breakfast would be done, or breakfast would be brought up to the room, or just that love, just that attention, or like where you're being pampered. And like you could still have blue marks in your face, but you could still be loved. And I couldn't understand like why love somebody that's all bruised up. Like how could you even look at me with my black eye, or I don't know. Like when the maybe the black eye went away or the blue mark went away, and then it probably wouldn't take long again to get into the same situation again. 16. I mean, it could be from one day to the next, or 1 month to the next maybe, but it always got worse. Like you get hit once, it's only going to get worse. And one time I was up pretty early. The kids were up pretty early. They were already, had breakfast, and he told me let's go next door, and he was drinking it, so I went next door with him for a while. Anyway, he sent me home to. He said, go pick up that ham, like a nice fat ham and caribou ham, and he told me to go pick it up. So I went to go home and pick it up. And the girl that was staying there, she was scared of him. I don't know why. I still don't know why he was scared of her. She was scared of him. But she followed me and she said, Annie, don't let me go back there. And I said, why? Anyway, I brought that caribou next door, and then he, out of nowhere, he started calling me names and yelling at me and calling me a bitch and calling me whatever. And I was wondering, why is he mad? Anyway, I went upstairs to the washroom at my house, went to the washroom, and then he barged into the door. I didn't have time to get my pants up or whatever, but he swung at me and he was swinging at me, and I was scared. I ran out of the washroom, ran downstairs to the kitchen, and he was right after me, running, right after me, and I said, what? And he was mad at me, and I sort of figured that he wanted to fool around with her, and I was preventing that because I was there. And he was mad at me, and I told him, you want to go see her? Go see her. Go. And then he grabbed my cast iron frying pan, and I didn't know why he grabbed it, but he grabbed it, and he had it with his right hand, and he swung hard as he could over my head, and I could still hear the handle that he was holding. He was holding the handle yet, and I could still hear another part of the frying pan breaking, and the frying pan broke in 3 different places when he hit me on the head. It broke in 3 places, and he was still holding on to the handle, and I was thinking, holy crow, and then the force of the hit on my head was so hard as I fell to one knee and breathing like that, and sort of getting my air, and doing that I stopped myself from getting knocked out, and I just I don't know if it was the first time I yelled at him, but I said, go see her or something. And then he just went upstairs, went to bed, and that was the end of it.
there's a story that it says never go fishing with your enemy, with the Inuit. And basically what that is you don't go fishing with your enemy because you'll run the risk of not being saved or not coming back. And that has held true for quite some time. And the day that my father died in Johaven, my sister was 5, and she just learned to swim that summer. She survived the boat. It was upside down. Somehow his boat ended upside down. And I'd always wondered why she was able to be saved, but nobody knew what happened with my father.
When we left, it was November 10, 2001, we left Paulituck. It took something that happened to my daughter to just never look back. I always have it in my head, like, I don't know, but every day I think of it or whatever, but he touched my daughter, he drew the line. You know, like that's simple. I know it sounds simple in words, but to me it's simple because it took something like that to happen, where I just wouldn't. There's nothing. It's just we're finished. Nothing. Like I kissed him goodbye one day and I hated him the next. It was like we're not gonna come back again, sort of, and like it was okay, but leaving on that plane is, I almost felt relieved that I know I'm not going to live like that again. I'm not going to live in that situation or that relationship. Never went back after that. Yeah, but when children are hurt, it's just something else. I mean, to me anyway, I just never looked back. Mm-hmm. As hard as it was, I never looked back, never did.
And I remember it was 12 o'clock. I put my hand on the door at home. I hadn't been home all night long. It was the first time that I'd spent the entire night away from home. And I had my hand on the door. I think, I am in so much shit. And I put my hand on the door and I opened it, expecting, where in the fuck have you been, girl? And when I opened the door and it was dead silence, that's when I knew that it was real, that he wasn't coming back.
Come on, no! Curly! Come on, man! A pizza for 4 people!
Is it after we eat?
Oh, yeah. Just running in very soon. Thank you. 3 more people.
Misty, go get it!
I never thought I'd get out of that get out of that situation where I lived that kind of life. I never thought I'd get out of it. Never thought anything would change. But this is me now. I wouldn't let anybody hit me. I wouldn't let anybody hurt me. And see my kids, you know, they could run in the house right now. They run in the house and say, "Mom, you know, I'm up here," or, you know, it's really different not to be around violence. It's 10 years ago would have been unthought of, you know, to have that kind of a home, whereas, you know, you could open the door and there's, you know, nothing to be scared of. So I just thought I'd say that. So.
In the summer of 2008, we had a meeting here in Inuvik where women from the region came together and shared their stories and experience around domestic abuse.
And everybody sees it, everybody talks about it, and it still goes on.
They're being told that they can't come to Inuvik because they didn't finish the 6-week program first time.
I was physically assaulted by a family member, and abuse can happen to anybody, whether it's family or whether it's a stranger, you know.
Family violence, you know, has no boundaries, right? It can occur in relationships at any age, right? So it happens in teenage relationships, it happens in relationships with elders, right? It has no boundaries around a couple's finances, right? It can happen just as much if somebody's living in poverty, just as much as it can happen in somebody that's living kind of comfortably or is wealthy. It has no boundaries across culture. I mean, around the world, family violence occurs across all cultures, and that's been well documented and well researched. And I think that's an important piece for women and men to know that they're not alone.
Yeah. And maintenance enforcement, just make sure.
My name is Ann Kasuk. I'm with the Inuvik Transition House Society. I've been here for 9.5 years as the executive director in the shelter. And the work that we provide, or the service that's provided, is for women and children who are experiencing family violence. And this is not only in Inuvik, but also the region. Over the years, the clients that we served have been between the ages of 15 to in their 70s. Sometimes I'll come into work at 7:30, 7:45, and a client will already be saying, "Could I talk with you?" So they've been waiting, you know, like from the night before or whatever. And I usually say okay, and I set aside everything that I need to work on to put the clients first. And if they need me from 8:30 in the morning till 12:30 in the afternoon or 1, depending on how long, because I mean, you can't stop a lady if she's pouring out. And if that's the situation, like there's been some very very hard cases with some of the women because they're so traumatized and they may need just that support like all morning long. We provide them mainly with support because we don't have full-fledged counselors within the shelter, but Inuvik has the counseling services through the health authority now. So for counseling, they would usually set up appointments to go to a counselor.
I'm Patricia Kyle, and I'm the Manager of Mental Health and Addiction Services for Beaufort Delta Health and Social Services. I'm responsible for overseeing mental health, addictions, and family violence services throughout our region for children, youth, adults, and elders. So welcome to the Inuvik Community Counseling Program. This is one of the counseling offices, and this is a brand new space for our program. We've been here since early December.
Inuvik Community Counseling Office, Renee speaking.
So generally when somebody has an appointment, they'd come in, and normally we'd have somebody at the front desk to greet people as they come in and to let the counselors know that you've arrived. If someone's reaching out for help, it's kind of validating a woman's experience and listening and acknowledging that, yes, we hear and empathize and understand with what's happening, and believing her experience. I think that's a key point too, that this is her story, this is what she's sharing with us, and absolutely it is her truth. No person deserves to be abused. Because I think that's what can be happening, right? So you're in this abusive relationship, and sometimes people feel that they deserve it, right? That they've done something wrong, that yes, it is their fault, which isn't the case. It's not true.
I guess my kids had to get used to it. I had to get used to it. I had to get used to having help. And the number of talks with the workers there is, it wasn't my fault that the abuse was happening. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault, and I never knew that until I kept talking with them.
There's like a cycle of family violence. And while there are unique factors that contribute to every situation, there are some commonalities.
Opening my mail. I always wondered, why things were so good for so long, and then out of nowhere it just got worse, and then got better, and then got worse. And then somebody told me that's a cycle of abuse. It's like in 4 parts, like there's arrows that goes round and round like a clock or whatever.
There's what they call like a tension building phase, and women and men kind of know when this is happening, right? It's kind of like that gut feeling, and they know something doesn't seem right anymore, and kind of the tension is building in their home. Then there's the explosion, and so the explosion could be
he's drinking, and then he's blacked out, and then I'm beaten up.
Like physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, spiritual abuse. That can be the explosion phase where something's happened.
Next day would be, okay, what happened? Like what did I do? Or I'd tell him what he did, and that's when everything was good. Everything was like, he loved me, he's being nice to me, or he's doing extra little things that make me feel better.
What they call the honeymoon phase is trying to make up for what they've done. So then it's the apologizing, it's the bringing gifts, it's the saying, I'm sorry, I won't do this again.
It might be better for a little while, but it always gets worse.
And yet the cycle will continue. So family violence is an issue of power and control. It's an issue of power and control of one person over another in an intimate relationship. These behaviors of power and control, over the course of time, women will normalize. Because often what might seem obvious to us on the outside looking in is not obvious to the person in the midst of that experience and that abusive relationship, right? That's the idea of the power and control, right? When your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are being managed by someone else, it becomes difficult to kind of see through that.
Just by being there, it helped me realize that there is life out there. There is life out there. Whether you have 1 child or 9 children, there's still life out there. It's not the end of the world. If you leave a relationship and stuff like that, or
The day that he died, I remember leaving the nursing station, walking down the stairs and thinking to myself, at no point in my life is any man ever in my lifetime going to hit me again, or my children. And I'd held true to that promise to myself from that day forward. Thinking back, I was robbed. I was robbed of a father, a mother, a childhood, and the life experiences that most have in a joyful manner. It took me 10 years to come to the reconciliation of either being happy or sad or angry. Angry with what he'd done and not giving me what everybody else had, which was a happy family. I felt guilty for being happy that he died. I felt guilty a long time, but it took a long time for me to resolve that I can be angry with him, but still love him, and accept things for what they were. I can't change that, so I'm okay now. My brother's not. He'll be in the penitentiary for the rest of his life. I got a letter from him last week. He won't be able to call me for a while because they have to put him in another maximum security jail. He won't comply with the rules, and he beat up one too many guards, one too many prisoners. From my perspective, it's the children, because they're the innocent. They have no idea where there's help. They have no idea that there's another type of life, that there is happiness. And anybody that tries to even tell me different will meet a good argument for me. And I found out that I can use my voice, and I'm really good at it. So that's what I try and do.
We are women! We are women! We are strong! We are strong! Violence against us! Violence against us! Has lived too long! Mother, daughter! Women's lives!
Women's lives!
We will not!
We will not
Be terrorized!
be terrorized!
Breaking silence!
It's really hard to give advice. I prefer to give support. But one of the things that we tell the women when they are leaving the shelter is that our number is here. You know where we are. You need us. Call me. My hope is that they will always know that they can break free. They can, they can build up their own confidence. To see a lady that has built up her self-esteem to where she had never returned again to the shelter after being here on many occasions, and with an attitude that she has like, I'm not taking anymore, no more. I'm not taking anymore, no more, no to abuse, no more, no more. And I've seen growth. Mind you, it's a slow process, but I've seen the growth myself.
I've been told I can write a book. And the only reason why I can talk about it without emotion is because I've already dealt with the emotion. There's no sense crying now. The hurt's already healed. Have I forgiven my father? I might have. I'm still angry with him. But, he died 23 years ago. And I still feel twinsies of anger. But I do love him. It's already done. That fear of being quiet or making a sound, that is what I never want my children to fear. They don't have that fear of breathing, of moving, of just even a creak in the floor. They'll never experience that. They do have their memories. That's important, that moving forward.
Just if I don't feel like cleaning the house, I could always clean up later. Or, like you're not worrying about time. You're not worrying about taking long at the grocery store, or you're not. It's just freedom to me is just another word. For me, freedom is it's big in my life now, where I could speak my mind. I could, do almost anything that I want. I'm not going to be quiet about it, and I'm not going to be ashamed. Why should I be quiet about abuse? I'm not going to be ashamed that I was physically abused. This is me now. I'm not afraid to talk about violence. I'm not ashamed of it. This is me, and whether it helps somebody else, I hope it does. Because nobody should be ashamed of being abused. Nobody should even,